We breathe into this moment of our invocation, knowing that we are so blessed in the morning, in the noontime, in the evening. And although the appearance right now here in Alaska is 4 degrees, we know that there is the ever bright sun shining beneath those clouds. And we know that that sun is within us, as us, for us. And so it is.
And so it is.
We have... No, it's okay. You can come now. Can you remind me of your name? Sorry. Lisa. Thank you. We have Lisa joining us today. We are an interfaith gathering, a spiritual community that honors all teachings and all spiritual teachers. And now we begin the ceremony that celebrates the oneness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples and all faiths come for the one universal presence, which we call spirit. Thank you, Lisa, for saying yes. And so let us begin. The Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. Shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of pristine spirituality. Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. The last candle is the healing candle of love. We invite you in the stillness of your own mind to bring to awareness the names of anyone you wish to be included in this healing flame of love and light. Now that our flames of faith are fully lighted, we move forward into our celebration, realizing and reaffirming that all paths lead to God. And so it is.
So it is.
See how easy it is to say yes? There's always these little moments that you can say yes. Our inspirational quote for this Sunday comes from Joel Goldsmith, Showing Forth the Presence of God, page 15. Just as we must rise above the traditional material concept of God and prayer, so we must overcome the material concept of ourselves and identify ourselves with God. I'm going to read that one more time. Just as we must rise above the traditional material concept of God and prayer, so we must overcome the material concept of ourselves and identify ourselves with God. And so it is. More music.
Wow.
Good morning, everyone. I am Karen Blair Sherman, and I am one of the licensed practitioners here at the Alaska Center for Spiritual Living. And I am so grateful to see all of you here, some friends that we haven't seen for a little while, and some friends that I haven't seen for a little while because, unfortunately, I've had 2 bouts of the flu and haven't been here for a little while. But it is so nice to be here with all of you today. And it's so nice to know that there are many friends that are here with us online. And if you aren't here online right now, I know from traveling that I could go online at any moment and watch the Sunday service, and that was a true, very much blessing. So today, is there anyone that's new? We have a special packet that we would love to give to you if there's anyone new here with us for the first time. Well, it is nice to be in the company of friends. And so now we also have ways that you can receive prayer. How many people know that we love to pray? Yeah. It's like the thing that we love to do the most. And there are many ways that you can receive prayer. When you walked in, there's a box to your right, and in front of you, there's a piece of paper. A lot of times it's green or blue, sometimes it's white, and you fill out that request, put it into the box. I will collect those and send them out, and we will know the truth for you all week. But we actually know that as soon as those words are written in the paper, actually as soon as those words are a thought in your mind, that it's already begun. It's already transforming. And so we just collectively know because where more than one are gathered, right? Yeah. It just sends that prayer onward. And then also you can ask for 1 minute miracle. We call an OM right after service, and we are happy to sit down with you. That could be myself, it could be Linda. We have Judy in the back, Bob. We have Rev Dawn, and next door we also have Robert and Ann, and Cynthia. We have also in the back Cynthia George. So tap one of us on the shoulder. Say, please know the truth for me. I'm really struggling, or I have been blessed with so much right now. I want more of that. So please pray up for some more of that. Yeah. Then you also can call in and leave a message. Rev Don will get back with you, or he'll ask one of us to get back with you. You can have more length prayer. There's also cards in the back for each of us. And then online, there's a little place where you can ask for prayer, and Rev Linda will send those out. So there are many, many ways to receive prayer. All you have to do is say, yes, prayer, please, and then find the best modality for yourself. There are also other opportunities to say yes. It is tax receipt time. Do we have your current address so that we can make sure that we can send that out to you? We want to make sure that you get your form before you send in your taxes. For gracious.
Mary? You're going to go to your seat. Okay. We got it. That big microphone? No. Okay, we'll bring it to you. It's not down here. It's underneath. Don't touch it. No, it's not.
If you were to ask 10 people what color a zebra is a zebra white with black stripes, or is it black with white stripes? You'd ask 10 people, you'd probably get about 12 different answers. And once they coalesced, I think they'd probably end up with about 9 of them agreeing that a zebra is white and it has black stripes. I discovered, and this is a great book, 10 Things Every Child with Autism Wishes You Knew. This book is amazing. For one thing, it's not written with a bunch of psychobabble, and it's written in shirt sleeve English. You can understand what they're saying, and he uses concrete examples that drive everything home. But in this book, Ellen Nottbaum says, zebras give the impression of being white with black stripes because the stripes end without joining under the belly and around the legs. But the hide of the zebra is actually black. It's a lesson from Mother Nature that things are not always as they appear on the surface. And so that gives you a little clue about today's talk. It may not be what it appears to be. Our monthly theme is a grand rising, and it's also our annual theme. The title of my talk today is It's a New Life. And I have 3 points. First, I'm going to talk about patience is a virtue. Secondly, you got to have faith. And lastly, everyday spirituality. Patience is a virtue. You know, sometimes we just have to wait. 80 years ago, a young woman had a dream of becoming a fashion designer. Due to life circumstances, she had to give up on her dream, her aspiration, but it was kept alive in the stored away design sketches of her creations. Today, Georgie is a late blooming designer. Thanks to her granddaughter Julia, who said that she had known that her grandma had dropped out of fashion school in the 40s in order to support her family financially. However, Georgie never talked much about her ambitions. This changed during the COVID lockdown when Julia was visiting her grandma and found Georgie's designs. Georgie told her granddaughter that she was proud of these sketches and wanted them displayed at her funeral so people would know that fashion was a big part of her life. Julia thought, why in the world would we wait for her funeral to show these things? And so she rolled up her sleeves and got busy, got on the internet and learned how to sew. And then she got some fabric and she began to make Georgie's designs. She's been doing this for 2 years. And then she posts them on TikTok, garnering millions of viewers and over 800,000 followers. Georgie is in awe of seeing her creations come to life 80 years later. She said, it's one thing to see them in a drawing, but seeing them in real life, well, it makes me cry a little bit. Sometimes we just have to wait. Joshua Kang, in his book Spirituality of Gratitude, wrote, we often face hardships that we can't endure on our own, and we need patience to abide. Like passing through a long tunnel, we have no choice but to be patient until we reach the end. Sometimes we have to wait. Point number 2, you gotta have faith. I think she's cut country and western. I'm going to confess my lack of musical knowledge here. Amy Grant. I've heard the name, but I know who she is. I think she sings like country western. I don't know. But she was faced with, and it's a long story, I won't bore you with it, how she got there, but she ended up at the doctor's and he asked to run some tests and he came back and she had partial anomalous pulmonary venous return. I think nobody besides Linda and Lisa know what that is. So in shirt sleeve English, it's one of the veins that going from the lungs back to the heart is going to the wrong side of the heart, and it enlarges the left ventricle. Condition is normally fatal in adults later on. Amy was faced with her diagnosis and knew that she was also faced with a surgery, open heart surgery. They'd have to do the full crack you open, the whole thing. And of course she was concerned about that. But she had very strong faith. She absolutely believed that God had made her the way that it did, that she was created for a reason, that this voice that she had, her ability to sing, all of these things were there for a reason, and she really knew that this was going to turn out okay. She had an unshakable faith. Well, she had the operation in spite of the fact that she had already planned an entire tour, I think it was 20-some cities in 12 weeks. She went ahead and did it. Today she is thriving. Her voice is stronger than ever, and it all came through but she had that power of faith. Ernest Holmes wrote, "Life flows into everything, through everything. It passes into every human event and translates itself through every human act. If you think of life as flowing through your every action, you will soon discover that the things that you give your attention to are quickened with a new energy, for you are breathing the very essence of being into them." You are breathing the very essence of being into them. Now, I've been preaching to you for 10 years, actually longer than that, about 12. And if there's one thing that I really want you to learn and to understand, is that our thoughts are creative. If we believe we can, our chances of accomplishing that are so much greater. They are infinitely greater than if we have a firmly held belief that we can't. And things are not always as they seem, just like those zebra stripes. Sometimes what we see isn't the capital T truth, remember that from last week, the capital T truth of the situation. And that there is a power in the universe that's greater than we are, and it is helping us, it will continue to help us, and it can lead us. We have been given all of the things that we need to do. And we can do this. Of all of the things that I encounter as a minister, and people bringing problems to me, asking for prayer, asking for guidance, I think the single biggest thing is some hidden belief that we're not worthy, that we're not good enough. We don't deserve to do this. I'm not good enough to do that job. I don't have the right education. They're never going to pick me out of this whole field of candidates. There's a series called Suits, and in the very beginning of Suits, this drug runner, this young kid that's actually taking marijuana around, bulls his way into an interview for a legal firm, and he's got so much chutzpah. He's got that, and he can polish it off, and he comes off as an accomplished lawyer. And he gets hired. And then the next 8 seasons are all the troubles he runs into for lying about being a lawyer. But if we believe it, we can do it. We have that within us. And it's helping us all the time. Everyday spirituality, seeing the wonders of everyday living. It's around us all the time. It is part of our lives, is spirituality. Our connection to the divine never goes away. It doesn't just melt. Even though we may be not recognizing it, it is always there. Susan L. Taylor wrote, "Love is everywhere around you, in everything God created. You only need to pause for a moment to recognize the holy presence as the night sky, as each blade of grass, as your own heartbeat." Ask Amy Grant about the heartbeat. A lady by the name of Kimberly Elkins, young, moved to New York City, finding her way around the big city on her own, and her brother and sister wanted to come and visit with her, and so they did. Her roommate happened to be out of town. It worked out really great. So they were all in the apartment together, and they did all the New York City stuff. They did, Statue of Liberty, and they did the, Empire State Building. They did the whole thing. We even went to a Broadway play. And toward the end of their visit, one night, they were all in the apartment, sound asleep, when out of nowhere, there was a big crash. Now, Kimberly had put her sister in her room. She'd put her brother in her roommate's room, and she was out on the couch in the living room. And there's this big crash, and it happened to be in her room. And they went in, and there was a porcelain doll that she had purchased when she was in Italy. And somehow that doll had fallen off the shelf and broke. So everybody was fine, everything was done. She got a dustpan out and started sweeping up the pieces of the porcelain and whatnot. And there was a huge bang and a crash. And her brother had come out to help clean up the shards from the broken doll, was standing there. And what had happened is the ceiling right above his bed had totally given out, and big pieces of plaster came down and went right into the pillow. Had he been still in that room, in that bed, soundly sleeping, he would have likely been crushed, possibly killed. There is a power in the universe, and it is for us, and it will help us. What Kimberly learned later, when she went back to Italy to try and find a replacement doll, is this is called a triangel doll. And it is thought of as being a protector of all we do. Everyday spirituality, everyday things, that infinite presence is with us. Now, part of this everyday spirituality is coming together as community. Now, for those of you online, thank you for being with us. It's very difficult for you to join us after service for coffee, but I invite you to do so in spirit. And I invite everyone here today to join us after service for coffee. The first ball game's going to be most of the way through anyway. And the second game doesn't kick off until 2:30, so. We have many opportunities at this center. Karen showed where we made our donations. And the committee is meeting later this month, and they're going to decide who we're going to give to this coming year. And we do like to pick the smaller nonprofits, the things that don't get a lot of attention and whatnot. These are the things, this is not our mission. We're not great at feeding the hungry. We're not great at clothing the naked. We're not really great at a lot of these things, but we can help those people whose mission is to feed the hungry and clothe the naked. And we do that, and we do that with the monthly giving that you give us. We give 5% back to the Anchorage and Alaska community, as well as the yearly tithe on a permanent fund. We give to one larger thing when we do that. But it brings us together in community. It brings us together. Some of the things that we've done on just a spur of the moment. One of our members was helping the homeless over at Cuddy Park and came to the awareness that they really needed some coats and gloves. And so we just did a thing. Everybody bring, look in your closet, see if you've got some extra coats, bring them next week. And we were able to supply coats and gloves to a whole bunch of people that wouldn't have, with no pain to ourselves. It was there, it was good. A couple of years ago, it came to our awareness that Some of the kids at the Covenant House were being shuffled from foster home to foster home with all their belongings in a garbage bag. And Cynthia George started a program. We were hoping to get, I don't know, 8 or 10 or maybe a dozen suitcases, I don't know. We delivered 115, I think it was, 120 suitcases to Covenant House. And that's the giving nature of this community. And you are a part of that. And another one, Fish. The ladies at Fish, Fellowship in Serving Humanity, called and said, oh, no, can you help us? We're out of peanut butter and mac and cheese. And those are 2 important things for us. Okay, we'll do what we can. We went over, Fastenal was across from us. They gave us this huge, big old box. We filled that baby with mac and cheese and peanut butter. When the ladies from Fish came to pick up our donation, they took one look and said, oh my, we can't take that much. We're going to have to take a couple trips. And their little car, we had to load it 3 times. So in the future, when they called, we said, we'll bring it to you.
Yeah.
That is the community of which I speak. A guy by the name of Phil Hamburger in Seneca, South Dakota. Well, sure hope we'll find it. He is a farmer. He wrote a compelling story in Guideposts, and it is about a tornado that came through his farm. His father had started this farm in the 1950s. He'd bought some acreage and they grew, and they just kept plowing money back into it and getting more and more and more. Today, he is farming over 10,000 acres. His spring plant, it takes over $1.5 million for his spring plant. And he puts everything into it. So if the weather turns, if things go south and things go bad, he loses everything. Well, they had a tornado that came right through. And his story is awesome because he and his family get into the barn and they have a storm shelter below the barn, and they got down in the storm shelter and they could hear what was going on up above them, and they knew that it was a horrible, horrible storm. When it finally finished, bravely looked out and came out, and 35-foot tall metal grain storage silos were flattened. Entire buildings were blown away. The force of the wind was just unbelievable. And of course, they lost everything. That story was wonderful in itself. And if you can get Guideposts from June, July of 23, just last year, I would invite you to read it. It's a stirring story. But that's not what impressed me on this. What impressed me out of this in the end was the very end. It was finally dark, and they didn't know what to do, so they said, well, let's just go to bed. We'll wake up in the morning and decide what we're going to do there. At first light, we were standing in the rubble, trying to decide where to start, when our friend Kelly Kirby drove by. He stopped and stared. Wow, was all he said for a moment. He collected himself. Well, my place was hit too, but not nearly this bad. I'll call for help. Kelly drove off, and we watched the plume of dust behind his truck drift off. A few minutes later, they saw another plume of dust coming toward them. Several people from their church were there, and they said, Kelly called. One said, where do we start? A few minutes later, 3 tractors arrived, followed by a pair of loaders and semis. By mid-morning, there were 45 people in the yard. I looked at upturned faces. There was Barb and Alan Vanderverst and their boys, the Storers, the Hines, the Gosens, the Berglunds, and their daughters, Scott and McPeck, and their boys. It seemed as if the entire congregation of Grace Church was in the farmyard. For a moment, I groped for directions on what to give, who to do what. But without asking, practically in rhythm, everyone seemed to know exactly what to do. We set to work moving metal and clearing glass. The tractors shoved down trees aside. Trucks hauled grain out of the broken silos. The work went quickly. Afternoon faded into evening, and I realized that no one had thought about food. I went looking for my wife. Near the driveway, I saw some barbecue grills being unloaded off a pickup truck. A group of women standing beside some coolers were forming around meat into patties. Soon the smell of burgers was drifting through the air. How? I asked. Oh, hi, Phil, said one of the women cheerfully. We put a call out to the church for meat, beans, buns, drinks, and chips. And they're here. The sun went down all the way down, and in the near dark we could no longer see the debris, just each other sharing a meal. It went like that until Sunday when we got up early to put on our dress clothes. Normally I love the drive to our church, but that morning I didn't even register the light on the fields. How are we going to survive, God? We're just one family. I was still worrying when the church came into view ahead. I saw the parking lot, and it looked like Kelly and his wife, Renee, were already there. Here came the Storers, and the Hines, and the Gosens, and the Berglunds, and the McPecks, and suddenly I realized we're not just one family, are we? We're part of your family, God. If we lean on you, if we place our hope in you, we'll make it. We're not just one family, are we? We're part of your family, God. And we are all part of the family of that infinite creative force of the universe. We can't escape. Conclusion for today, what I want to leave you with patience and a faith and a daily connection to our higher power, we can have a new life. Even though our intention setting is powerful, the universe has a tendency to laugh at our plans. Life can seem to get in the way of our dreams. How do we bring a grand rising into the rest of our lives beyond the disappointment, discomfort, and perceived failure? By staying present and trusting the divine. Every challenge being thrown at us is designed to shape us into the people that we are meant to become. Some challenges may feel insurmountable. The faith that we bring to those challenges helps to build a faith muscle that allows us to overcome anything. Faith turns any impossible situation into a triumph. As we bring the energy of a grand rising into our lives, let's remember that Spirit is by our side and throughout the journey, always conspiring for our favor. And so it is this, with this awareness of that infinite presence within each and every one of us, even the people we don't like, I am inviting my colleagues, the practitioners and ministers, to join me in absolutely knowing and holding that there is indeed a power in the universe that is supporting us through this and any situation that we face in our lives. God has never been broke. God has never been sick. God has never been separated from itself. And each and every one of us are expressions of that infinite creative force, and each and every one of us has a part of us which is that infinite creative force. Every one of us has a part of us that is divine. Every one of us has a part of us that knows the answers to every question. Every one of us has a part within us that is above the appearance of dis-ease. Every one of us has a part within us that is greater than any appearance of separation, there is a part of us that is greater than any lack and limitation. For we do live in an abundant universe. We are all one with God. We are all one with one another. We are all one in love. And so we just give thanks. And it is with that gratitude that we can step into the rest of our day, the rest of the week, for the rest of our lives, knowing that that infinite force is helping us along the way. We give thanks, we let it go, we let it be, and so it is.